Hello, kids. My name is Gabriela, and I'll be answering your questions about Brazil. What language do we speak in Brazil? We speak actually Portuguese, the same as in Portugal, but with a little bit of different accent and some different words, because that's how the language developed itself. We do speak Portuguese because we were colonized by Portugal. How many people live in Brazil? Brazil has 194 million inhabitants. What kind of clothes do Brazilians wear? We wear actually the same clothes as everybody else in the world, but because our weather is so warm, we don't use so many coats and jackets like in Europe. We do use lighter fabrics for the clothes and less clothes. Summer is almost all year long in Brazil, and I would say in the winter time the lowest temperature would be 15 degrees. Sometimes in south of Brazil it's a little bit colder, but mostly lighter clothes. How far is Brazil from the United Kingdom? The approximate distance from between Rio and London is 5,747 miles. And flying, that would take at about 14 hours from Rio de Janeiro to London. What are the typical animals in Brazil? Toucan and golden lion tamarind, spider monkey, squirrel monkey, howler monkey, a boto, that's like a river dolphin, spectacle bear, pygmy marmoset, and that's a little bit of it. Who are Brazilians' most famous footballers? I would say Pelé, Zico, Socrates, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. From the ones that are playing now, Neymar, Rivelino, Jairzinho, Kaká, Romário, Garrincha. On a girl would be Marta Vieira da Silva. Do they have tornadoes in Brazil? Tornadoes are really rare, meaning they don't occur often. Actually, from all my life, I've never remembered one. However, there was a fire tornado reported in Aracatuba, southern of São Paulo, that was caused by strong dry winds that fanned wildfires. It's actually because it's so hot in the summertime, and it just happened fires, I would say. What are the famous beaches of Brazil? Copacabana and Ipanema in Rio de Janeiro, I would say they are the most famous ones. And there is even a song called The Girl from Ipanema. That's a bossa nova song from Tom Jobim. What's so great about Brazil? I would say the weather is the best part because it's always warm. I love the music as well. We really have good musicians and good music produced in Brazil. And nature, I really think Brazil has such a big variety of nature and jungles and so many beautiful places that you can go. And actually, the big coast of Brazil makes the nature even more beautiful because there's just so many ocean, and it's just so beautiful there. What famous buildings do we have? Brasilia, I would say, is the most important architectural point in Brazil. It's the famous capital of Brazil, and it was a planned city done in the 60s by the famous Brazilian architect Lúcio Costa, with collaboration of Oscar Niemeyer. The Oscar Niemeyer is a very famous Brazilian architect worldwide. And the opera in Manaus is a very famous place as well, very famous building. It's built in the colonial style, like what's Portugal would look like in the monarchy time. It's a really old building and really beautiful. What type of housing do Brazilian people live in? We do live in all kinds of housing. We have small apartments, big apartments, houses, and all sorts of stuff. And favelas are called actually like a lot of small houses put together with low budget and actually not built by the government. They are all built by the people itself with their own meanings, like money, what they have, and that's really like low budget houses. They are called the favelas. Everybody, when you're building your house in the favelas, everybody helps you to build your house because they don't have any money to pay people to build it. It really depends on how much money you have. That shows what kind of house you can afford. There is no government housing system, which means there are no council houses like in the UK. You have to manage by yourself to find somewhere and to pay for it. That's why in Brazil it's so normal to live with your parents until you're a little bit older. And sometimes when you get older and you get married and you have your own kids, because people are poor, sometimes they live all together with grandma, grandpa, aunties, and it's just like a lot of people living in one house because if they put all their money together, they can afford a better place to live in. That's why people do it. What is the weather like in Brazil? It's pretty warm, like I said already, almost the whole year. But because it's such a big country, we have a very big variety of climate types. In the south, it can get cold in the winter time, like nude 0 degrees at night, but it's really unusual. And in the north of Brazilian is almost always warm. And in the middle of Brazil, it's super warm with not so much rain. You guys should Google that for sure and learn a little bit about all the climates. How many people are in the Brazilian army? Well, every man, when he completes 18 years old, he has to assign for the military, and that lasts for 2 years. Sometimes you can get dismissed for health reasons, but it's actually an obligation of every Brazilian man to do military service. What do Brazilians regularly eat? The base for a Brazilian diet is rice and beans. And we do add to that meat. It depends on how much money you have to buy it or not. We do eat a lot of fish because we have so much ocean in front of us, and vegetables. Like I said, if you're very poor, sometimes your diet can be only rice and beans. And it depends on where you are in Brazil, it can be a little bit different. What's the Brazilian national dish? Feijoada, I would say. That's made of black beans and lots of meat. And it goes together with rice and an orange to digest a little bit better. What are the famous football teams in Brazil? I would say the two biggest teams in Brazil are Flamengo from Rio de Janeiro and Corinthians from São Paulo. I wouldn't say they are the biggest teams, but they have the biggest crowd that loves them. Does Brazil have eagles? Brazil has around 40 species of eagle, hawk, falcon, and kite, and caracara and kestrel. Some quite common, and they are not very easy to tell apart. Brazil's most emblematic bird of prey and the largest in the Americas is the ferocious, rare, and enormously powerful harpy eagle, weighing up to 10 kilos with a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters and claws bigger than human hands. It enjoys a diet of monkeys, sloths, armadillos, and other large animals, and nests at least 25 meters above the ground in big jungle trees. You can Google it and see a little bit more in Lonely Planet Wildlife Brazil. What are Brazil's major cities? São Paulo with 11,278,000 million. I don't know. Wait. São Paulo with 11,278,000 people, and Rio de Janeiro with 6,074,000 people. They are the largest ones and most important cities in Brazil. Another really large city would be Belo Horizonte, Fortaleza, Salvador, and Brasília. What sports are popular in Brazil? Football is the number one sport in Brazil. Then you have volleyball, surfing, swimming, tennis, Formula One, and Jiu-Jitsu. What natural resources does Brazil have? Brazil is very rich in natural resources. I'll just tell you guys a couple of them. And what natural resources does Brazil have? Brazil is very rich in natural resources. I'll just list a couple of them. We have sugarcane, corn, potatoes, cocoa, peanuts, cassava, rice, beef, cattle, pork, soybeans, oranges, wheat, dry beans, coffee, cotton, tomatoes, and you can Google it to find a little bit more about it. What is the major religion in Brazil? I would say Brazil is mostly Catholic because of the colonization from the Portuguese, like I said. But because of the slavery and a lot of other influences, we do have a lot of spiritualism and African religions like Umbanda or Candomblé, and one that is actually from Catholicism is like evangelism. We have it all in Brazil. What types of music are popular in Brazil? I would say the biggest one is samba. Then you have forró, sertanejo, bossa nova, rock, and you have Brazilian pop as well. And then you have the other kinds of music that you have everywhere in the world, like hip hop, rap, and yeah, that's about it. What are the major stars in Brazil? I would say Gilberto Gil and Caetano Veloso. They are very big and very influential politically as well. Seu Jorge is a very good in the actual time singer, and he does a lot of success. We have Ivete Sangalo as well, Marisa Monte, and just a couple of names. Are schools the same as in England? I would say school in Brazil is similar as in England, but there are not enough places in the state schools. So there are kids that have no chance of an education. And many middle class families make an extra effort to afford to pay private school for their children because the private schools are a little bit better and you're not taking the place in a state school from someone that cannot pay for private school. So that's about it. I hope you guys have a lot of fun researching about Brazil, and maybe a couple of you guys can go there someday to visit. It's a really nice country. Have fun. Ciao.